Here he is. There you go, Ann.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Walk in. You just walk in. And he's heading to the podium. He is in here.
Oh, excuse me, Channel 5.
And 25.
25.
Not yet.
Excuse me, 12.
No.
Not yet.
Let me know when you're ready, Chief.
He's about ready to start.
I'm ready.
Chief is ready.
Okay, Chief is starting.
All right, folks, good afternoon, good evening.
He's now talking.
What I want to do this afternoon is first issue a brief statement, and then I have some thank yous that I think it's imperative to offer out. So bear with me on the thank yous, and then I will take questions after that as well. Also, I want to thank you for your patience. I know I've been in contact with several of you since our press conference on Monday, and again, thank you for your patience, and we're here today to share some information with you. On Tuesday, June 24th, an autopsy was performed on the deceased victim, Diane Duve, by the Brevard County Medical Examiner, Dr. Saeed Kaiser. Diane Duve's cause of death has been ruled a homicide by manual strangulation, with secondary blunt force injuries. As I stand before you, I'm happy to report for Lena and Bill Andrews that the Vero Beach Police Department detectives are currently in the process of charging Michael David Jones with first-degree murder of their daughter and victim, Diana Duve. In seeking justice for our Diana, we will be her voice moving forward. This is a tragic case of dating and domestic violence by a weak, insecure, cowardly individual who felt the need to control his relationship with Diana Duve by way of verbal and physical abuse. Quite frankly, Michael David Jones disgusts me and is a very poor excuse for a man. He is simply a predator wearing sheep's clothing. Again, I have some thank yous. With the Vero Beach Police Department, Detective Division personnel, I want to thank the personnel of the Detective Division, specifically Lieutenant Matt Harrison and Detective Brad Metz. Captain Kevin Martin, the Patrol Division, our crime scene personnel, specifically Laura Gregg and Celeste Brown, and our communications personnel. The 19th Circuit State Attorney's Office, our State Attorney Bruce Colton, Chief Assistant State Attorney Tom Backendall, Assistant State Attorney Nikki Robinson, Brian Workman, Steve Wilson, and State Attorney Investigator Frank DiVincenzo. From the Indian River County Sheriff's Office, Sheriff Darrell Orr, Chief Deputy Bud Spencer, Sheriff's Office personnel, specifically crime scene deputies David Rodriguez and Christian Yanchula. Fort Pierce Police Department, Chief Sean Baldwin, and the Patrol Division personnel. St. Lucie County Sheriff's Office, Sheriff Ken Mascara, Jail Operations Major Pat Tye. Melbourne Police Department, Chief Steve Mims and Patrol and Crime Scene personnel, specifically Detective Chad Cooper and Digital Forensic Analyst John Noble. And then lastly, Brevard County Medical Examiner's Office, Chief Medical Examiner Dr. Saeed Kaiser and his staff. At this time, folks, I will take questions.
Chief, where was she
He's
killed?
taking questions.
Do we know at this point?
She was killed, to the best of our knowledge, John, at Carolina Trace, Unit 103.
Do you have any idea what her time of death was, at least the ballpark?
The medical examiner explained that from the time she was discovered, which was early Monday morning, the vehicles discovered around 3:30 a.m. by Melbourne PD. Our detectives responded and discovered her body in the trunk about 4:30 a.m. The medical examiner is advising that from the time of the discovery of her body 2 to 3 days prior. That would put it around early Friday morning time frame.
Had there been a history of domestic abuse with the couple?
We're learning more as we speak, as I speak, I'm sorry. On April 30th, we did respond to that location. There was a verbal disturbance there that was alleged by neighbor. We responded, 2 officers responded. We spoke to Michael Jones and Diana Duve. They each spoke to him separately. Michael Jones explained that the noise was rough sex. She explained that there was no issue, no problem, and she was leaving. We did not notice anything other than that at the time. I'm sure she was excited or possibly in fear at the time and did not want to share any of that information. She later shared information with several of her friends that she may have been saved by us responding that night.
Chief, I'm sorry.
She explained to other friends that he tried to strangle her that night as well.
And what night was that again, sir? How long ago was that?
April 30th,
Of this year.
yes. And then our next 2 responses were Friday and Saturday, so 3 altogether for the Vero Beach Police Department.
Chief, we're trying to figure out how Michael David Jones got back from Melbourne, if they were in her car going up there. Have you guys looked into whether there was an accomplice or someone else involved?
What we believe at this time, John, is that he was seen leaving 103 early morning hours of Saturday, the 21st, by a neighbor. The neighbor saw him out and about on his milling around, walking around, and in the morning hours, the neighbor was getting ready to go play golf and had gone to McDonald's. Saw him on foot around the unit. Then thereafter, he saw what he believed to be the same individual pull out of their garage, driving Diana's Nissan Altima, black in color. And this was approximately 6 a.m. Saturday morning. And as I mentioned before, we have technology based on some phone pings tracing it north to Melbourne, including where the vehicle is located, as I mentioned to you all on Monday. Around 8 a.m. Saturday morning, he was picked up by a cab driver in Melbourne, ID'd by the cab driver, and transported back to Vero Beach. The cab driver dropped him off at a location other than Carolina Trace, close by. The cab driver saw him get into a gold-colored sedan or Honda. Mr. Jones has a gold-colored 2-door Honda Accord, which we seized the night he was arrested for VOP.
Was that at the What a Tavern where he was brought back to by the cab driver?
No. The Water Tavern was where he left his vehicle when they were together late Thursday, early Friday morning. They left in the vehicle, as we explained Monday. They left in her car about 1:15 a.m., 1:30 a.m. He left his car there. Friday around noon, he got a ride to go to Water Tavern to pick his vehicle up. Between noon and the time he checked in at the Hampton Inn in Fort Pierce, which was 10:30 p.m. to 10:45 p.m., he most likely had his Honda Accord, and if he responded back to his home, he most likely parked that vehicle and walked. Because when the mother and law enforcement responded Friday evening into early Saturday, of course he left, as I explained, early Saturday, the Honda was never at that location.
So they left the What a Tavern together in her car early Friday, and then he was spotted leaving his apartment in her car early Saturday morning?
6 a.m.-ish Saturday morning. And technology shows him going north to Melbourne. He most likely utilized his cell phone or his iPhone, which, fortunate for us, he did, and he probably used it to obtain a number or a location of a local cab. And again, fortunate for us, he used his phone, and that was where we were able to get good pings from the phone.
Has he been any more forthcoming since your initial contact with him, where all he said was, "I don't know where she is"?
We're in the process right now. Our detectives are in the judge's office, if they haven't left already, to go en route to St. Lucie County to serve him with the first-degree murder warrant. and at that time they'll offer him an opportunity to speak to them.
Chief, you've had a career in law enforcement. You've seen a lot. It's not often you stand before us and say a suspect disgusts you. What is it about this case that's hit extra hard?
You're right, and I have seen just about everything. And this type of the way we've learned that he's treated her, and based on the autopsy results, it simply disgusts me. For a man to treat a woman, for anybody to treat anybody this way, but to control somebody like he has done is simply inexcusable. And again, that's no way to treat somebody you supposedly care about, and to treat somebody that has a daughter. That this was an individual, 26 years of age, had a career ahead of her, an only child, and now the parents, Mr. and Mrs. Andrews, they no longer have their daughter. Their grandparents no longer have their granddaughter. Her friends no longer have a close friend. And so he has done a lot of damage and altered the lives of many people.
What would your advice be to a woman or somebody who was in that situation, telling her friends that your officers might have saved her life, even though she's out of that situation? How should she approach you? How should she go forward in a case like that?
Well, we want individuals to come to law enforcement, go to a safe spot, and request assistance. So many times they're in fear, and they're afraid to come forward to tell their family. And we want to make sure that anyone involved in any kind of relationship like this comes forward, go to their family, go to friends, and then they can contact law enforcement. There's injunctions that they can get to try to keep these people away from them. They can move them, they can go to a safe location, things like that.
Now, is this the same Michael Jones that has been acting as a lawyer around town?
I don't know at this time a whole lot about his work. He is apparently an attorney or has a law degree, but again, to my knowledge, he was working on the financial end with PNC.
So you don't know if it's more of a paralegal, because the Florida Bar doesn't have him as a licensed attorney.
Right, and I think there's a good reason for that, based on his arrest in Lauderdale that I talked about Monday in 2012.
About that, when did he come here? Because he came here for employment and had his probation changed based on that. When did he come here from Broward County?
We're working on all that. My understanding is that he took a 5-year contract. This is what the parents tell me, with PNC, and it's been about a year into that 5-year contract.
Yeah.
So he did initially move here with somebody from Fort Lauderdale.
I can't really tell.
And that person moved back. We're talking to that person. We're talking to people that have come forward up to today even, that have been in a relationship or know Mr. Jones.
Has he been questioned by police in relation to Diana Duve's death? And so how was his demeanor during questioning?
We're on the way with the warrant as we speak. That I'd be able to share with everyone, of course, after they contact with him. Lisa.
Does the suspect have any family here locally that you know of?
Not to my knowledge. I believe he commented at one point that he doesn't have much family. The parents mentioned on Saturday night he may be adopted. I'm not real sure of that. His birth certificate, I believe, shows born in North Carolina, Charlotte, Mecklenburg area. And of course, he worked in Fort Lauderdale for some time. Apparently, when he was arrested for the incident in Fort Lauderdale, he was working for Wells Fargo off of Los Olos Boulevard. And that's per the report.
Chief, you said Diana Duve also died of a secondary blunt force trauma. Can you be any more specific?
Yes, several strikes were about the face and body.
Did it look like there was a violent struggle taking place, according to the medical examiner? Was there?
Well, I don't know how much of a struggle there was, but she certainly was received injuries, numerous injuries about the face and body, and that again was why they described it as blunt force injuries.
Toxicology reports come back yet?
No.
His first appearance will be at the Indian River County
Yes.
courthouse in the morning, correct?
Yes.
And then he'll be taken to the Indian River County Jail.
You told St. Lucie? First appearance for St. Lucie? Okay. And then he'll be
And then he'll be taken.
then he'll be transferred.
Thank you.
Yes.
And do you know who his attorney
Tom?
is?
To my knowledge, I do not. He may have a
Yeah, I
public
think-
defender.
I think
I'm
it might
not
be
sure.
coming to an end soon.
Chief, you'd said to me the other day that you've been keeping the family in constant contact. So they are aware now that the arrest has been, or the arrest is pending, the charges are pending at this point?
Okay.
I've visited with Mr. and Mrs. Andrews 4 times in the last 2 days, including this morning. Yes. They know everything before I share it with the media, as they should.
Any reaction to the string of domestic violence-related murders recently in the area?
Well, I have to be honest, I've only heard a little bit about it. We've been so busy with this. I actually can't comment too much. It's certainly unfortunate. I do know that. But I really don't know much about the cases since Saturday afternoon when I was notified about this. We've been pretty much fast forward.
Have any leads come from tips from the public or people who came into contact with Mr. Jones, or just from police work from your officers approaching people who might have been witnesses?
A combination. A lot of it has been our proactive work with our detectives. But in doing that, the part of that is of course contacting people and establishing a timeline.
Specifically the cab driver?
Specifically the cab driver. And again, he gets there in her car, he leaves her car, how does he get home? So what we do is we in assistance with Melbourne PD, of course, we scour that area. We call cab drivers, businesses, what have you, transportation businesses.
So you found the cab driver? He did?
We did.
So what was it then specifically that allowed you to put this charge on him?
Well, again, a number of things. The witness at the house seeing him leave the vehicle, with the vehicle, the pings that we talked about that put him in Fort Pierce when we located him, the pings that put him going north to Melbourne, the pings that put him in Melbourne, the ID with the cab driver. We have video of him outside of a Wendy's. We believe is him getting in the car with the cab driver. We have the video of him checking in at the Hampton Inn.
Okay.
We have the autopsy from Dr. Kaiser, of course, explaining the cause of death. So we feel we've had a strong case.
When was the last homicide in the city? It's been a while.
We had one at Vero's Motel, and I believe it was this year. Was it late last year? Late last year?
August of 2000.
August.
It's been almost 8
Time flies, John. I apologize.
First of all, where's Jones' car now, and where was it first found?
Jones' car was found in Fort Pierce at the Hampton Inn and was brought back here to the Vero Beach Police Department in our secure compound.
And it's been here ever since.
We did a search warrant on that car yesterday afternoon. Yesterday's some of the follow-up, what we were doing, why we couldn't, we were waiting to get back to everybody. But we did a search warrant on his car yesterday, and we also went back into the home for the 3rd time via search warrant to do 3D imaging and further collection of evidence.
Did you find anything else?
We I'm not going to go too much in what we've recovered, but we did retrieve more evidence from the home and even the car.
Evidence to indicate that the murder took place in the home.
Evidence that will support our case, yes.
And did you say if you knew where exactly it took place or where she was killed?
I'm sorry,
Do you know exactly where it happened, where she was killed?
we know it was in the unit. We feel strongly that it was in 103.
Why do you believe that?
Based on the time that they left the Water Tavern, based on the time that she texted her mom saying she was going to not be home, based on the time that he left Saturday morning, and based on some of the evidence that was retrieved from the home, as well as talking to witnesses and people that have talked to them. And once again, Dr. Kaiser explaining that the cause of death and the time that it probably occurred.
When he was found at Fort Pierce, did it appear that he was preparing to flee?
Possibly. During the weekend we notified some air marshals to make sure that he wasn't going to leave the country before we even knew where he was. When the ping, I believe, came, the actual ping was late afternoon, maybe 5:30, 6 o'clock down there. We received it thereafter, but the actual ping was then. We had Fort Pierce respond again, and they were there around 11:30 or so, and we took him into custody around the midnight hour or so with Fort Pierce PD. He had paid cash, $400 some for 4 days, and was due to check out yesterday, the 24th, if my date's correct. So he was paid up to yesterday. So where he was going to go is unknown at this time. Maybe he was going to re-up. He did let the clerk know to basically not let anybody know he's there if they call, or no forwarding calls to his room. And that's comments to the clerk. He had apparently taken some money out of the bank and said he was going on vacation.
Who did he tell that to?
His employees, or a fellow worker at PNC.
When did he tell them that?
We believe that was about 1 p.m. on Friday, which is shortly after he was taken to his car at Water Tavern. Taken to his car about 12 noonish. About an hour or so later, in his car, goes to the bank, withdraws money, and says he's going on vacation. Of course, he did text or call somebody prior saying he was sick Friday and not coming into work. He was supposed to work Friday and did not come in.
Is there any reason to believe that Diana didn't send that text to her parents, that maybe he had that done?
There's always a possibility, but unless he knew Russian, he probably did. Because that's how mom and sister and daughter communicate from time to time. If you saw the release that we sent out on their behalf yesterday, they're from, originally she grew up and I think at age 13 moved here. They're from Moldova, and mom tells me that that's the old Soviet Union between Romania and Ukraine. And so they speak to each other that way.
They texted Russian then?
Many times. It's part of the evidence as well.
Will we be able to get a copy of the arrest warrants once that's done tonight?
Once it's made public record, yes.
What about her cell phone? Was it turned on? Could
We
you
have
tell hers?
we have not recovered her cell phone or her ID or purse. The last ping, I believe, was about 3:30 a.m. Friday over by Home Depot. So it's really unknown at this time. Did he attempt to get rid of it at that time? Again, that's part of our investigation and it's unknown. But it was either turned off or rendered
Home Depot and Vero Beach.
Home Depot and Vero Beach. And you have to understand with pings, if my phone's turned on, it may ping a tower, and then it'll say, okay, you're by the closest tower where your service provider is. But once I start to use it, it'll be more specific in location. So again, that's where we have to, in a sense, thank him for using his phone in Melbourne and Fort Pierce. He apparently had bought a track phone as well with the area code of 6321, which helped us as well tie to Melbourne, because 321 is a Melbourne area code. And we're following up where that may have been purchased at. So that would be a phone that you can call and not be traced. And so an example for the pickup with the cab, he probably used his cell phone or iPhone to find a number up there, not really being overly familiar with the area. Familiar enough, of course, to go there, but he may have used that to find a phone number for a cab, look up a cab, what have you, and then called them on the untraceable phone. But once again, when you use the phone, it gives you specific location. If the phone's just on, it may give you that general region or area, which is still helpful.
Is that area of Melbourne just random, or have you found any other significance to Diana, to that area?
Yeah, the only significance, again, we're not so sure how familiar he is with the area, being up here maybe a year or so. We do have them up, or her up in the area in December. We don't know if it was to dine or to go to stay the night, what have you. So he may have been with her. Again, it's part of our investigation still. He may have been with her, and it was very close to that location, so maybe that prompted his thoughts there.
She didn't have friends up there or anything like that?
Again, not that we're aware of. She did have friends all around, so I wouldn't be surprised, but to our knowledge right now, it wasn't anything like that. Do we have any more questions? See some brainstorming out there. No more questions, folks?
I think that's it.
Thank you, Chief, for your
All right.
time.
Thanks for coming out this afternoon again, and as we get more information, and we'll share that with you. And of course, like you said, the affidavit and public record will be public record, I'm sure, sometime in the very near future. Thanks again, everybody.
Thank you.